Hello, BookTube. I'm Peg, the Book Prize addict. Now, I haven't had too much of a problem with my addiction to book prizes for the last few months, maybe even more than that. I used to just read several of them, it seemed like every day, and report on them. And I've actually kind of, like many of you, gotten away from a lot of reading. But just lately, just recently, I've really started reading a lot. And being in my situation, in the feeble, aged people that definitely want to stay out of harm's way with the virus, I imagine I'll be staying at home reading most of the summer, maybe even the year. But, I decided I want to do something worthwhile to me, that I feel like I accomplished something rather than just sitting around the house reading anything I want. So I went into my bookcases, and even though I haven't been talking a lot about book prizes, I've still been buying books for them and reading some of them, but collecting them. So I weeded out all the books that I've gotten in the last year, mostly in the last year, some before that I haven't read, that are on different book prizes. And I even ordered a few because my birthday's this month, so I think I needed to fill out some of the lists. So I have a list of 10 prizes that I'm following and have followed, but I'm going to do it a little more conscientiously. And I will link the 10 prizes down at the bottom in case you want to see what they are. I'm sure you're not as anxious to see the list as I am. But anyway, so I made this shelf with all the books that are up for different prizes this year. And the white things are my file system where I write it. Now that is liable to grow. Actually, I have turned around on the bottom the ones I finished. Not too many are turned around. I must tell you, this pile here and those two are ones that were recommended to me by Sean the Book Maniac. Now, some of you who are new, I'm sure you know Sean, might not know, but a couple summers ago in 2018, I went to Canada to Sean and Kenzie's wedding, and it was one of the best weekends of my life. I feel like I made some lifelong reader friends there. I hope we can all get together again, but he knows a lot of good readers. Actually, just the other day, he made a video with his friend Lindy, who I sat by at the wedding reception, and it was fun to see all them again. We went to bookstores, of course, but okay. I'll show you this more closely when I've got it completed, the ones that are coming in the mail. Okay, so let's get started with some book prizes that I've been reading. You'll notice I don't have listed some of the more common ones, more popular ones. I just decided I like the kind of innovative, different ones that I might not read otherwise. So to start with, that is a new one I found called the Hugo Prize. The Hindu is a newspaper, kind of a national newspaper in India, and they have a prize for best novel a year for the year, or they have some short stories collections on it too. But I've always been interested in Indian literature, and so I started this one called Heat. Now, a little bit about that. It is from a Tamil writer. It was written 20 or 30 years ago, but has just now been translated. In fact, I think it's not the first book that's been translated from Tamil, but the first was not too long ago. I remember reading an article about it. So this is quite new as far as English readers know, and it's quite a story, very realistic, just a really good story, kind of sure makes me feel what it's like living in India during those days in the small town. Now, I will say it's the main character is a 15-year-old boy. There he is sleeping on some cracked earth. The word heat has a lot to do with the dryness of the land and the trouble he gets into. I have to tell you, the first sentence is one of the most striking sentences I've ever seen open up a book. It's about the boy. He had only planned to hack off the man's arm. In truth, I'm not spoiling anything, it's all on the first page. He does go into a market area where a lot of people are around, and he has what he calls a sickle sharpened, and he tries to hack. Now, there's a reason behind it. The whole story is the reason behind it. But unfortunately, he doesn't hack off his arm. He hacks off his arm and kills him, goes into his body. At first, I thought, what kind of book is this going to be? But the rest of the book, he goes on the lam. He goes through the countryside trying to hide. But his family all know where he is, and they come and visit him. And the whole story is about what this man who he accidentally killed has done to this boy's family, and it involves some murders too. It shows you the different classes of people and what they're able to get away with, and how some crimes are never even taken to court because the person has money. But the best part was the natural habitat that he had to live in and get food. I've always been a sucker for good atmosphere and scenery, and this was wonderful. I mean, it explained. He kept running into interesting things, of course. There was one case when he saw how they kill cobras and prepare them for meals, I guess. Just a lot of really interesting situations he runs into. And as I said, it's written kind of starkly. You think, well, this couldn't have this much information, but it does. You realize, or I realized as I was reading, there really is. I can almost picture the valleys he goes through, how thirsty he is hunting for water in this kind of land. So I'm anxious to read the rest of the Hindu list, which I'll have at the bottom. Okay, next I have something from the Elliott Desmond Prize. Now, Elliott Desmond was quite a character, I guess. He's no longer living. He was, I think, a journalist and a book critic, and led quite a life. There's stories about him drinking only champagne and flying on what was that huge airplane that people used to fly on anyway, and he had quite a way about him. Now, I have to say that Steve Donahue had some sort of run-in with him. I'm not sure what exactly it was, and Steve has a wonderful way of describing his personality. So I'm going to ask Steve if he'll give a little talk on one of his many videos about Elliott Desmond, or is it Elliott Desmond, or is it Desmond Elliott? I think it's Elliott Desmond. Yeah. Okay, but I'm going to ask Steve to talk about that and remind me a little bit about what communication they had. Anyway, but the books they're debuts, but they're not really debuts that anybody's ever heard of before, or I hadn't. And this one, and they're somewhat innovative or about new and different circumstances. This one, The Keepers, is about, you might say, domestic violence, but it takes place in a women's shelter. Now, there is a murder. There are policemen involved. I mean, it's kind of, in a way, a murder mystery, which is unusual to be on the Elliott Desmond list. Anyway, but I'm sure it has a lot to do with the timeliness of the women's shelter. And I have to tell you, one of the best characters I've ever read about is the woman who runs the shelter. She's a piece of work, and it's almost worth reading to have her. Anyway, so I actually haven't finished this, but I wanted to go ahead and talk about it and suggest it. And I'm sure it can't come to a very good end. I mean, most of the characters aren't going to change that much, but it will be interesting to see how it comes out. Okay, next I have, what do I have next? Okay, one of my big favorites to follow is the Dagger Prizes. The Dagger is the big mystery suspense award centered in England. The suspense writers there have a Mystery Writers Association, have a big to-do, though I don't know if they're going to have a big to-do this year. But they have 5 or 6 different awards they give, and the two I really like are the historical mystery and the foreign translation mysteries. I really love those. Actually, it's going to be coming out again in June, so I'm still working on last year's. But anyway, the one I have this, oh, wait a minute, this isn't the book. Where's the book? Oh, yeah, I got it. Okay. This one, Destroying Angel, won the prize for the best historical novel. And I wanted to read it. I really like, reading history and a mystery into it. I could learn and be scared at the same time. But it's a third volume in a series. And so I got the first one. I'm just reading now the first one, and it's really good. It sets up the young man, Sebastian St. Cyr, who is quite a party boy, but he's the hero of the story, and I guess is going to solve the mystery. And there's a lot of true life things during the Regency, and this one says it has something to do with the captain of Cromwell's guard. So I like the fact that it has some actual people in it, and I can pick up a little on my English history there too. So I guess after this, I'll read the second one, and then the one that won the award. Okay, and last I have, you are going to be really surprised that I like this kind of book. I used to love science fiction, and really more science fiction than fantasy, and I have kind of gotten away from it, but there still are some very good books written, and the two big prizes I like to follow there are the Hugo Prize and the Nebula Prize. They are the worldwide biggest and most literary, I guess you would say, prizes for science fiction and fantasy. The Hugo is a worldwide organization, and it meets different places each year. It was in Dublin last year. I think it was supposed to meet in New Zealand this year, but it of course has been canceled. But it has thousands of people that go to those conventions, and there is a group from BookTube actually that goes. Anyway, so they have a best novel, a list. The list is out now. And the other one that I really like is called the Nebula Prize. It's a U.S. prize. I guess it's mystery writers in all of U.S., and they usually meet too, but I've already heard they're going to have a virtual meeting. But they give lots of prizes, both of them, but the prize for best novel is the one I really like to keep tabs on and see. And I have to say, there's two books that are on both of their lists, my favorite lists, and two books. One of them I've already read, called Memory Called Empire, was excellent. It didn't. I get along with science fiction and fantasy better if it doesn't have, strange animals, dragons, and things like that. And this wasn't like that at all. It actually is a kind of a murder mystery, you might say. It does involve another planet. A woman is sent to the big planet to be the ambassador there for her planet, or she doesn't really live on a planet, it's kind of a station. Anyway, she's sent there, and supposedly the only science fiction thing, besides traveling to different planets, is that they have a way to put the memory of the last person that had that job into their head, so that go to a new planet and a new job, they know what's already been going on. Well, something goes wrong with her guy in her head that's speaking, and she goes to this new planet without knowing anything or anybody, and trying to figure out how the old ambassador died. And it's really well done, I have to say, with really good characters. I think it's going to be a series. But I have to say, I can take that much science fiction. Now, the other one I have not read, and I wondered if anybody here admits to liking this kind of thing. The other book that was on the list of both the Nebula and the Dagger is called The 10,000 Doors of January. That's it. It's on Kindle. Has anybody read it? Does it have any strange animals? Do you think I should try it? Probably I will. Maybe I can read a sample first. Too bad the libraries are all closed. Okay. I will be back soon because I am just all of a sudden reading like crazy. So have a good reading day, guys. See you later. Bye.